Hi there, join me in this video where I'm going to give you some tips on composition. So the plan is today I'm going to walk up to a little lake that I think is pronounced Llyn Cwmffynnon. I might have butchered that pronunciation, but on the way I'm going to walk up alongside this river and I'm going to keep an eye out for good compositions. And as I find them, I'm going to talk you through why I think they make a good composition. Now, unfortunately today, the weather is not ideal because it's really too bright, which is a complete contrast from yesterday where it was totally overcast. But either way, the techniques that I discussed won't make any difference because they will still apply to whatever conditions you've got. And I know today that I'm really going to enjoy my photography. Just before the video gets started, I want to let you know of a few ways that you can support the channel. There are lots of items in my Teespring store, and there's a link for that down below in the description. A really big thank you to everybody that's bought something. It's such a big help and it really is appreciated. You can also do all the stuff with the buttons down below, such as clicking like, subscribe and sharing the videos, and don't forget to click the bell. Thanks so much for watching. Now sit back and I hope you enjoy the video. I've got a composition just here that I've set up, looking up the river towards a set of small waterfalls further up the riverbed. Now, what I've done for this is I've turned the camera into portrait orientation because there's not much of interest on either side, so I really want to just contain the interesting part, and so a portrait orientation works much better. And then what I've also done is I've done a focus stack. So I've set some rocks in the foreground to create some foreground interest, and then I've focused again deeper into the image, further up the river, and I'll focus stack them when I get them back in the computer to make sure that everything is in really sharp focus. So I found a composition just here that I like. There's a rock at the edge of the stream with some pebbles around it, and then there's a little cascade of water in the stream a little further back to make some mid-ground interest in the hill in the background to really finish off the composition. But to make sure that I didn't get too much river that wasn't very interesting in the scene, what I've had to do is get the camera very low. So it's taken a little bit of messing about with to get it to a point where, one, it's low enough to get the rock in the foreground, which is only about a meter away from the camera, but also position it so it's not casting a shadow, because at the moment the sun is almost right behind the camera. So it's taken a little bit of finagling to just get it in the right place. Then I've focus stacked the image, and to make sure that I focus on the right area, I've used a touch screen on the back. So I pressed the screen on the rock, and that's taken a photograph there, and then taken a picture further into the scene by pressing on the scene there. Creating layers in your image is really important to give your image depth, because basically a photograph is a 2D representation of what you see in front of you. So you've got to try and give it a 3D quality, and the way that you do that is by using a strong foreground, midground and background, because this then takes your viewer's eye through the photograph and it creates that idea of a 3D image. Now, sometimes you can do that with a depth of field, so if you've got the foreground in focus and the background out of focus, that does really create depth. But in this image here, I want everything to be in focus, so I've focus stacked it on purpose. So that's even more important, to have a strong foreground, midground and background. Again, I've focus stacked this image here because there's a really interesting formation of rock on the right hand side, but I wanted to get the flowers in the foreground also in focus as well. And one tip that I use when I'm doing a photo stack is I'll take a photograph of my finger, so I know that is the start of a stack of images. It just helps you find them when you get them back in the computer. So I've made it to the lake, and the photography guidebook did say that this place doesn't get many visitors, and it was totally right. There is nobody else here, and I didn't see anybody else walking up the path. So I've got the entire place to myself, so it gives me lots of time to just casually walk up the side of this lake just here, looking for rocks to be foreground interest, and placing this mountain here in the background, and it makes for a really lovely composition. Despite the fact it's very sunny and it's quite harsh lighting at the moment, I still think I'm going to get some nice photographs. One thing that you might want to consider is the format that your final image will be in. Now, I've just taken a shot here by the edge of the lake with some rocks in the foreground and the mountain there in the background, but there was a lot of extra water in front, and so I think that that will work very well as a square crop rather than a rectangular crop. Think very carefully about your positioning, because it can really make a big impact on the composition. I took a shot just over here on the side of the lake, and I wasn't totally happy with the composition. And when I moved just 5 steps to my left, I found that the composition was much better because it felt a lot more balanced. I'd got less water in the frame, and I'd got a rock in the foreground on either side, and it just all felt a lot more balanced. So there's a rock just here on the side of the lake that echoes the shape of the mountain in the background really well. So I've used those two to complement each other. But again, positioning of the camera is really important, because I've taken 2 shots. I've taken one where the point of the mountain is in line with the point of this rock, and I don't think that it works as well as when I move a few steps over to my left and place the rock in the foreground on the right and the mountain on the left. I just think it works a lot better, but you let me know what you think. Well, what a brilliant morning of photography that's been, and in such an amazing location. And I hope you found those composition tips useful. It's so important to give consideration to composition, because as I've said today in this video, the matter of a few meters to one side or going up or down can make the composition completely different. And also giving some consideration to whether you're going to crop into square format or have landscape or portrait can make a massive difference. So it's really important to consider that when you're taking the shot, rather than have to try and sort it out when you get back in the computer. If you have found that video useful, then do let me know down below in the comments, or nip over to my Instagram account, that's @DarrellOakden. Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photos. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, you can also visit my Teespring store. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, like the t-shirt that I'm wearing now, so go and check that out. There's a link down below in the description, and it really helps out the channel. And also, don't forget the super thanks button. But you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications, because it really helps me out and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video. That goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, go and check out this video just up here. But all that's left now from this brilliant location is to say, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.